By the end of today's session, you will be able to expand 3 brackets. So we've been looking at questions so far that had 2 brackets together. We learned some shortcuts. But by the end of today, you will be able to expand questions that have 3 brackets. Now, we'll work up to that. So I'll put one on the board now that will work together, which is halfway between what we've already learned and on the way towards expanding 3 brackets. This question looks similar to ones that we've already been doing because we've got 2 brackets that we need to expand, but then there's also a 2 at the front here. So you'll see a question like this and the instructions will say expand. I want you to treat this just like the questions we've been doing before. That means, for now, we just pretend that the 2's not here. So we'll do this one together, but you need to stay ahead of me. So, to start off, you can put the 2 on the next line here, open up one big bracket, and what I want you to do now is all this 2 is going to sit here and watch. It's not going to do anything. It's going to sit here and watch you expand these 2 brackets just like you learned how to do last lesson. So for now, pretend it's not there. Pretend the 2 is not there. Expand these 2 brackets just like you learned how to last time and put your answer in one long bracket here. You can even do that coloured underlining thing if you remember too, that'll get you to the next step. All right, press pause, expand those 2 brackets and get your answer there. Once you've expanded your brackets, it looks like this. We can do our coloured underlining here because there are 2 that are the same. They've got an X next to them, here and here. Make sure you're underlining the plus when you do your coloured underlining with whoever it belongs to. Keep the 2 outside, keep your answer inside this big set of brackets. Write down what the next line would look like. Okay, so we're at this point here. We've expanded these 2 brackets, but this 2 hasn't done anything yet. All it's done is sit here and watched you expand these 2 brackets. Now, do exactly the same thing as before, but this time you need to do 2 times each thing in the brackets. You're going to have 3 of those coloured rainbows going across the top now. So in a sec, pause it and do 2 times x squared, then do 2 times 9x, and then 2 times 18. You'll end up with a final answer across the bottom. Go. All right, here's your final answer. 2 times x squared, 2x squared. 2 times 9x. Remember, times the numbers together. 2 times 9 is 18, and then just put the letter next to it. And the last one, 2 times positive 18, positive 36, or plus 36. Okay, I'll put a new one up and you can have a go on your own. Okay, write down this one here. Again, the 3 is just going to sit back and watch. It's not going to do anything yet. So let the 3 sit here on the next line. Open up your big brackets. And just like you've been practicing throughout this chapter, expand these 2 brackets how you've learned. If you've forgotten how to expand 2 brackets, you might want to go back and watch the video from last lesson. Put your answer inside here. Do your coloured underlining and you'll get to the next step. Go. Once expanded, we end up here. Careful with your positives and negatives this time. Do your coloured underlining. These 2 are the same. Write down what the next line would look like. Keep this 3 on the outside. Negative 2 plus 5 equals positive 3. Again, put that in the calculator if you get mixed up with your positives and negatives. Last step. Now the 3 needs to do something. 3 has to connect with each of these items. 3 times that, 3 times that, and 3 times that. Go. And here's your final answer. 3 times x squared, 3x squared. 3 times positive 3, positive 9, with an x on the end. And then 3 times negative 10, negative 30. That's your final answer. We'll try one more of these. Let's follow the same pattern to try and solve this one here. The 5 is just going to sit and watch. So write it on the next line and then expand the other 2 brackets in between. Okay, the thing to be careful of here, negative 3 times negative 2 makes positive 6. Check that your answer is the same. These 2 can be grouped together because they both just have an x next to them. Write down what the next line would look like. Here it is, once simplified, negative 2 minus 3, or minus 2 minus 3, call it whatever you want. Type it in the calculator if you're not sure how to do it in your head. We end up here. Now the 5 gets to do something. You need to do 5 times each of these 3 things. Go. And here's your final answer. 5 times x squared, 5x squared. 5 times negative 5, negative 25 with an x on the end. And then 5 times 6 is 30. All right, now we'll move on to expanding 3 brackets. So if you haven't already, put a heading in your underneath this, or the next heading will say expanding 3 brackets. Here's our next question, expanding 3 brackets. So we're going to start the same way. Just a heads up, there's a fair bit of working out here. These questions do take a little while, and the working out's really long across your page, so make sure you leave enough space. It also means we won't do heaps of examples because you'll get bored or it'll take too long, and you don't have heaps of questions that you need to work through. So it's more about just doing a few questions but getting lots of practice at the steps to be good at it instead of doing heaps and heaps over and over again. So let's start exactly the same way as we just did. This bracket here, it just wants to sit back and relax. It's just going to sit and watch while you expand the other 2. All right? So start by putting on the next line, put that first bracket, x plus 3. It's not going to do anything yet. It's just going to sit and wait. And then open up a bracket here. Do just like you were doing. Expand these 2 brackets the same old way and put your answer inside the brackets there. Do the coloured underlining. It'll get you to the next step as well. Okay, now we're at this step here. We've expanded, we did our coloured underlining, and we put it together. Here we are. If you haven't already done this step, do it now. Now we're doing just like we did before, but you're going to have a total of 6 coloured rainbows going across by the time you've finished. I'll start you off. This x needs to times by that, and then by the 8x, and then by the 12. Let's do that first. So we're going to have 3 colours here. Do it before me. X times x squared. I'll give you a clue. That little number there needs to change. So x times x was x squared. If you're doing it again, that little number there needs to change when you write down the answer here. Then do x times 8x. Write it next to it. Positive 8x. And then do it again, x times 12 or positive 12. Write down what that would look like on the next line. If you've done it correctly, it should look like this. X times x squared, x cubed, that's called. Then we had x times 8x. Well, there was no more number, so the 8 stays the same, but you got an x times an x squared. Then it was x times this positive 12 on the end. If it's a number and a letter, just write them next to each other. Now you need to do exactly the same thing, but this time do it with the 3. So this 3 times x squared, then the 3 times that, and the 3 times that, and write it next to it so you've got one long line across here. Go. This is what it should look like. Now it's a positive 3, so positive 3 times x squared, positive 3x squared. Positive 3 times positive 8x, so positive 3 times positive 8, we've times the numbers together, 3 times 8 is 24, put the x on the end. And the last one, they're just normal numbers, it's just positive 3 times positive 12. 3 times 12 is 36. Oh. One final step, coloured underlining, but this time you're going to need 2 different colours. See if you can work out why and try and do your coloured underlining. You'll need 2 different colours. This cannot be underlined the same colour as this because this one has a little squared on the end. Get your 2 colours, see if you can work out what need to be underlined in the same colour. That's what your underlining should look like. The x squareds, they're the same, so you can do them in the same colour. See, I've put the pluses with them as well, very important. And this is like we were doing before, regular old x, they go together. Now your final step, just like you've been doing in all the other questions, put the same colours together. So if it's not coloured, you can just write it the same way. This here means 8 plus 3, and this here means 12 plus 24. Write down what the final line should look like. Here's your final answer. X cubed, this was the red coloured underlining, 8 plus 3 is 11, and then we just write x squared next to it. This was the green coloured underlining, 12 plus 24 equals positive 36. And then, coincidentally, plus 36 again on the end. We'll do one more because it's a lot of working out. If you get a bit more practice, then you'll do the questions in the book. Okay, write down this question, please. Let's start by expanding the same way. The x plus 4, just let it sit here and wait. It doesn't need to do anything. So write the x plus 4. And now expand the other two inside here. Go. Do your coloured underlining and collect the like terms as well. Once we've expanded the two brackets, it looks like this. Check yours is the same. Coloured underlining, positive 2 take away 5 equals negative 3 with the x on the end. All right, now let's start with this x here. You need to do x times that, and x times that. Write it on the next line, go. Here's what it should look like. X times x squared, x cubed. X times negative 3x, negative 3x squared, because it's an x times an x again. And then x times negative 10, it's a number and a letter, just write them next to each other. All right, do the exact same thing, but do it with the positive 4 this time. Go. Okay, hopefully you've written it next to it, so you've got one really long line like last time. Now get your two colours and do your coloured underlining. Oh, sorry, we'll go through it just to make sure you've done it correctly. 4 or positive 4 times x squared is positive 4x squared. Positive 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 with the x on the end. And the last one is positive 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. Now do your coloured underlining, and I'll do the same. Okay, that's what the coloured underlining should look like. I've done the pluses and the minuses with them as well, very important. I can't underline this one any colour because that's got a little 3 up the top. That makes it different because that one's got a 2 and that one's got nothing there. So they can only be underlined the same colour if they're exactly the same letter with the little index up the top. Okay, simplify. Use the calculator if you're not sure how to count up and down or higher or lower numbers here, and put your final answer. And here's your final answer. X cubed stays the same. This is the green ones. So it's negative 3 plus 4. That equals positive 1, x squared. Now, it's totally fine to write it like this, but if you wanted to be a little bit fancy, you actually could just write x squared on its own. The 1 doesn't have to be there. Both answers are correct and both are totally fine. Here's the red underlining. Negative 10, take away 12, or minus 10 minus 12. Say it however you like. It equals minus 22, and then put the x on the end. And then here's your minus 40. Okay, you can start the book questions now.